Several robbers break into home. The girl tried to escape from the robbers. She actually hid under the robber's bed. A flashlight suddenly fell on the floor. Kelly immediately turned the flashlight to the outside. Fortunately, the robbers did not find her. Kelly was therefore not discovered, but one of the robbers seemed to have found something. He turned on the light in the room. Kelly immediately retracted her feet. The robbers were getting closer and closer. Kelly couldn't breathe. Her whole body tensed up. Luckily, the robbers were all looking at the bed. It turned out that the boss was injured by Kelly's boyfriend Mark, so he had to lie down on the bed to recuperate. If the boss was injured, then Mark could have been killed. Kelly couldn't help but cry at the thought of it, but the tears would be found on the floor. Kelly could only close her eyes tightly. Just when she was feeling desperate, the opportunity came. The robbers were sent out to clean up the blood. Callum was the only one in the room. The boss was lying on the bed with a painful expression. Callum pulled out the stool and tried to find a cure online. Kelly's satchel fell to the floor. She immediately picked up the stick and poked her head out. Kelly tried to reach out. Callum suddenly looked this way. Kelly stopped immediately, but Callum was just talking to the boss. This time she carefully sticks the stick out because she wanted to hook the satchel on the ground, but the other end was too thick. It took a few tries, but it didn't work. Kelly makes a bold move. She poked her head out. Just as she was about to reach for the bag, the boss's arm came straight down. It almost hit Kelly's face. That's when someone outside the door called out for Callum. Kelly pulls the bag back under the bed without being noticed by the robber. She took out the phone to call the police, but Callum suddenly returned because he had learned a cure. All he had to do was raise the bedpan to stop the bleeding. The robber is almost at Kelly's feet. Kelly closed her eyes in despair and thought she would be found, but as soon as the bedpan was lifted, it was lowered. It turns out Callum found a photo. The woman who owns the house is a nurse. He can't get the woman to treat the boss's wounds. The robber then left. Only a scared Kelly was left behind. A few minutes later, the hostess was taken to the room. Kelly wanted to edit a text message to the police, but just as she was about to send it, her phone ran out of battery. At that moment, the hostess' watch fell on the floor. When she bent down to pick it up, she accidentally found Kelly. The hostess immediately thought of a solution. She said she needed hot water and a cloth torn into strips. The robber was successfully distracted. She pulled the glass out of the boss's body. Then she told the robber because her husband and son were in the other room, she would cooperate with them. Kelly then realized that her boyfriend Mark was still alive. Then the hostess wrapped the bloody clothes. She tried to throw it away, but the robbers refused. The robbers took her back to the room. A short time later, the robbers cleaned up the blood and prepared to drive away. Kelly heard the car go away. She was about to get out, but Callum suddenly came back. He was carrying 2 large barrels of gasoline. It turns out Callum wanted to burn the house down and erase all traces of their crime. Kelly panicked at the news. If she doesn't find a way out, she's going to be trapped in here. But 2 vicious robbers are here right now. How could she get out of here? Tears fell from Kelly's eyes as she thought about it. She turned her head to look. She suddenly thought of a way to escape. She picked up a soccer alarm clock, then set the alarm for 1.5 minutes later. While Callum was calling his accomplice, Kelly threw the alarm clock into the corner. 5 seconds later, the alarm went off on time. As Callum bends down to pick up the alarm clock, Kelly took the opportunity to get out from under the bed. She finally makes it to the door safely. Several robbers break into the home. The woman tiptoes forward. She tried to run out the door to call the police, but just as she touched the doorknob, there was a sound. She had to hide in the bathroom first. The hostess neighbor came. She asks the robbers who they are. Why were they here? Callum knocked the neighbor unconscious, then he killed the neighbor. Kelly witnessed this brutal scene. She was so scared that she shed tears, but she had to stay calm. If she was found out, she would be dead too. That's when Callum came into the bathroom. Kelly was hanging over the bathroom. To save her strength, she is holding onto the valve with her hand, and her foot is hooked on the door handle. She had been in this position for half an hour, but she can only tolerate it with her eyes closed because there's a robber outside the bathroom. Callum had just killed a man. He had a sick habit. He pulls out a dagger after each crime, burning the dagger with a lighter, and then leaves a brand on his arm. This is the 4th person he's killed, and Kelly can't hold on much longer. Luckily, Callum is ready to leave. He praised himself and left the bathroom. Kelly was finally safe. She immediately opened the window to get out, but then she thought for a moment if she left like that, her boyfriend's family would be dead for sure. Kelly looked at the scissors. Kelly is determined to save her boyfriend's family. At that moment, Callum returned to the other room. He kept staring at the mistress' feet. Kelly quietly appears from behind. She stabs Callum in the back, but the next thing she knows, she's knocked down by Callum. Her legs are grabbed and dragged backwards. Kelly manages to escape, but Callum goes after her and grabs Kelly by the neck. Kelly is pinned to the wall. However, Kelly stomped on Callum. She stuck the scissors in Callum's chest. Then she took the opportunity to run upstairs. She ran into the room and stepped on the bed. Then she jumped up to the attic with the help of elasticity. Even the boss thought Kelly was good. Then she quickly climbed into the attic. She carried out a large box with great force to increase the weight. She also picked up a lot of books and put them in the box to block the hole. Finally, she was safe for the time being, but she found that there was no exit, so she called out for help. But there was no one near the big house. She was completely trapped here, and Callum had gotten an electric drill. It drills a big hole under the attic. Soon he'll be able to drill through the floorboards. Just when Kelly is desperate, she accidentally finds a crossbow. It's the one she and Mark use for hunting. After an accident, Mark had left the crossbow here, but it became Kelly's weapon of choice to fight back. Only this crossbow is missing an arrow. Kelly had to calm down and figure out what to do. Callum had drilled through the floorboards. He managed to climb up to the attic, but Kelly has disappeared. Where could Kelly hide in such a small place? Callum sees a figure behind the white cloth. Kelly should be inside, but when he lifts it up, it's a puppet. Kelly hid on the beam and came down immediately. After Callum found it, Kelly jumped down the hole quickly. She used a stick to immediately seal the exit. Callum was trapped in the attic. Kelly was about to turn around and escape, but she saw the boss with a gun at the door. She immediately cried and said she didn't want to die. Luckily, the boss is weak at the moment. He was tired of fighting too. The boss was doing it for the money, not for the other life. So he let Kelly go. Kelly broke the bathroom glass with a beer bottle. Then she wrapped the pieces in a rag. It's a sharp weapon. She untied the ropes that bound Mark and Mark's mother. They were going to leave the house quietly. The three of them were just coming down the stairs. They were spotted by the robbers. Kelly hid behind a door to avoid being seen by the robbers. She crawled carefully to the kitchen just as the robbers were having a conversation. Because Kelly had already seen them, they had to kill Kelly. Kelly decided to leave the house. She went back to the room and fished out the key under the cabinet. She opened the window and was ready to escape. By the time one of the robbers noticed the difference in the window, Kelly was safely outside the window. She went down the ladder. The other robber happens to be at the bottom. The bald robber heard Callum's yelp. He rescued Callum from the attic. Now there are 3 robbers. Kelly can't escape, and they just need to get rid of Kelly. All the witnesses will be eliminated. A fire will burn down the house and there will be no evidence. But they had underestimated Kelly. Kelly returned to her room again and retrieved an arrow. She climbed up to the attic and started fighting the 3 robbers. The robber opened the cap full of gasoline, poured all the gasoline into the room. He prepared to burn the house down. But in the attic, Kelly was holding an arrow in her mouth. She took out a crossbow and carefully drew it to full strength. She aimed directly at the robber. When the robber realized the danger, Kelly immediately fired just in time to shoot the robber in the heart. However, when the robber fell down, the robber still ignited the lighter. It set the room on fire, instantly burst into flames. Kelly quickly jumped down from the attic. She removed the only arrow from the robber's body. Then she smashed the glass with her bike. She tumbled over the wall and landed smoothly on the ground. The explosion caught the other robber's attention. Kelly suddenly appeared behind him and shot the robber in the back with an arrow. Then Kelly reacted quickly. Before the robber could shoot, she pushed the robber straight into the pool. In the water, the robber grabbed Kelly's neck. Kelly shouted and she grabbed the arrow and thrust it in. The robber died instantly. She then dived into the water and picked up the robber's gun. She changed into a black dress in the warehouse. Then she put on a gas mask and pretended to be the robber. Kelly knocks on the glass outside the window. Callum thought it was his accomplice returning. He wasn't alert. As soon as he reached the door, Kelly shot Callum in the shoulder. Callum immediately ran back into the room. Kelly forced Callum into a corner. Callum could only sit on the floor and wait for Kelly to deal with him. But Mark's father suddenly came into the room with a shovel. He knocked Kelly unconscious to the ground. The plan was perfect, and you screwed it up because you're a trouble. Nothing is going right. It turns out that Mark's father was a bank clerk. He wanted to rob the bank without suspicion, so he planned for his family to be held up by the robbers. When the robbery was successful, he then took the money and enjoyed it. The plan was going well, but suddenly a girl appeared. That messed up their plans. Callum pointed a gun at Kelly. He wanted to end the drama, but then a shot rang out. It was Callum who fell. It turns out the boss used all his strength. He helped Kelly to kill Callum. Kelly picked up the gun and pointed it at Mark's father. Now she doesn't know if Mark's father is good or bad. Kelly hesitates to shoot. Mark's mother walks out. She knows the truth, that her husband had conspired with the robbers. Mark's mother blows up her husband. When it was over, Kelly and Mark said their final goodbyes. Kelly was pregnant, but this dude has no intention of taking responsibility. Plus, Mark's mother despises Kelly's family because the mother had a bright future planned for her son. There was no way they were going to be together. Mark's mother gave Kelly a carload of money, but just as Kelly left the house, there was an explosion. Mark and his mother may not have made it out. The robber and Kelly's boyfriend's family are dead. Kelly is the ultimate beneficiary. She couldn't help but smile in victory. Now she has kids and money. She's going to live her life happily ever after.